Has your thread got all jumbled up underneath your fabric and it got stuck? Or have you got weird stitches going on your machine and you don't know what's going on? Maybe you've rethreaded the machine and reloaded the bobbin, because they're normally the best things to do first of all if you've got problems with your machine. If that hasn't worked, then the next step is to clean underneath your base plate. But don't worry, if you haven't done it before, it is really very easy, and I'm going to show you exactly how in this video. Who am I? I am Kim. This is Quilt with Kim. You are very welcome. Let's go clean a machine. First up, we're going to need some tools to show that fluff that's been collecting that we mean business. You're going to need a screwdriver first of all, so whatever your machine comes with. Now, my machine here comes with this screwdriver here that looks like a normal everyday screwdriver. It's just small, and this little round one here. So you may recognise this round screwdriver there. Your machine may also have a triangular version instead. It just depends on your machine. So use the screwdriver that comes with your machine, because they are designed to have the correct thickness to go through all the little screws that you have on the machine, and you can use any side of this that you like really. So grab your screwdriver. The other thing that you need is the little brush that comes with your machine. That's a really useful thing. You're going to need that. But the other useful thing I found is a couple of cheap paint brushes that just from any art shop, really thin ones on the end here. I've discovered these are very useful, and you will see why in a moment. You will need a tissue as well, just any old standard tissue or a bit of loo paper or something, and you'll need your reading glasses if you're of a certain age. Okay, so having gathered your screwdrivers and your brushes, if you haven't got a paintbrush, don't rush out and buy one, just use this one, that's fine. Okay, so having gathered your stuff, then let's get the base plate off. So let's switch camera and I'll show you how to do that. To get underneath our base plate, what we need to do is unthread our machine. It just helps you to get the thread out of the way. So to unthread your machine, I'm going to snip at the top and just gently pull my thread through. That gets rid of that. We also want to get the bobbin out. So my bobbin is on the top here. Yours might be underneath. You might have a side loading bobbin. Then we're going to take our foot off. You don't have to. It just makes your life a lot easier. So I'm going to take my foot off. And then I recommend we take the needle out as well, which we do by loosening the little clamp screw, and it's lefty loosey, righty tighty. So turn the screw towards you and just drop, the needle will drop down. Hold onto it, because otherwise it will drop into the feed dogs here. So we want to take the needle out and put that somewhere safely. Having done all of that, we now need to get this base plate off. If you've got an accessory box on the front, we need to slide that off, because we need to get in here, and then we need to undo the screws that are holding the base plate down. Now I've got 2 on this machine, you might have 3. So you need to get your little screwdriver that you've got, whether it's a circular one or a triangular one, and we're going to turn those screws around. You might find that they're quite tight. If I'm being really honest, I loosen these up slightly beforehand. So start it off with your screwdriver, and then you can normally turn them around with your finger. Now, sometimes they're all the same size, and other times I have noticed they are different sizes of screws. So I put them down really carefully, and I make sure that I know that this was the right hand screw, and when I take the left hand one out, that's the left hand screw. So I'm just putting that on my cutting mat in front. I'm going to do the same for this screw. Let's turn that round. If you've got long nails, they actually help a little bit as well. There we go, so that's the second screw there. So I'm just putting that very carefully down on my cutting mat in front of the machine that you can see right at the bottom of your screen there. And then having done that, we can take this in its entirety. It is clipped underneath, and we can take it out, but we need to slide it out carefully so it doesn't hit on the top of your presser foot holder here. Now these bits here will come apart and they're clipped at the back. So if they separate, don't worry about it. You can just clip them back afterward. Not that I can actually get this apart at all. Let's just turn that off and see if that works. There we go. All right, so they just clip apart, which this now doesn't want to at all. But if yours comes apart, don't worry. That's what I mean. In fact, can you see here where you've got two little clips? There's one on this plastic bit on the right. There's a clip just here. Can you see that? There. And then there's another little clip on the metal there on the left. It's like one's on top and one's underneath, but they both sit underneath on the back. So that was a very complicated way of explaining that, but just be aware that there might be two clips there. Anyway, if it comes off all in one go, you're good. So I'll put that to the side. So we can see here, now let's just see if I can zoom in. I might just have to physically move the camera. We can see here how much fluff that we've got. So there is fluff here. Let me see if I can bring a light very close to show up all our guilty secrets that we might have going on here. So there's fluff there. There's not too bad around the bobbin, but if I take this out, so this is where your bobbin sits, that's not too bad underneath, but look underneath here. Can you see all that fluff in there? Can you see all of that? We're going to get all of that out. Now, it doesn't take much fluff to cause problems with your machine. So this is where you want to get your little brush. We want to get in there and gently pick all that out. Okay, so you get nice, very satisfying blobs of fluff here. And can you see there, there's a tiny little bit of thread. If your machine is, when it gets caught up underneath, or when you've got those funny stitches, sometimes that's all it is that's causing the problem. So this is where the tissue comes into its own, because I'm going to just wipe that on the tissue and then go in for some more. Okay, look at that. And we're going to keep doing this until we finish. So it's not just this, the shuttle race just here. Look at all this fluff coming out. We don't want any of that in our machine. One thing I will say whilst we're doing this, do not, under any circumstances, be tempted to blow. Just don't. Because what you'll end up doing is blowing the fluff deeper into the machine and you want it to come out. And I'm going to have to put on my glasses now because I can't see. Right, let's have a look and get in here. Oops. So, can you see all this round here? And all there. The fluff gets in all sorts of places. So this can take a little bit of time to do. So give yourself a time, and I can see all sorts of fluff in here. Now this is where, so my brush, if you've only got your brush, that's fine. You can keep going with the fluff. Can you see all these tiny little bits of thread that have got caught in here? They cause no amount of problem, as I've said. If you've got a long paintbrush and a thin one, I've just found that they really help to get really deep into the workings of your machine. And you want to get into all the little nooks and crannies, because you'll be surprised where all this fluff likes to hide without you necessarily knowing about it. And if you've been doing some quilting, all the fluff from your wadding all ends up underneath here. So if you are quilting, you need to clean your machine really regularly underneath here. How often should you clean your machine? It depends, and there is no strict answer. If you have been using your machine a lot, then I would clean your machine maybe every month or so. If you use it just on a normal basis, maybe every couple of months. So you want to be doing it regularly because you want it all nice and clean underneath here. You can see all these workings underneath the base plate, and they're all going to work a lot better if they don't have bits of fluff in them. And you'll get fluff really deep down, so get your paintbrush in there. And you can see, look, more little bits of thread. There's not enough in here to cause problems yet, but I reckon another couple of weeks of sewing on this. Fortunately, I don't do too much sewing on this particular one. This tends to be my demo machine, so it doesn't get too bad. It fits nicely under the camera, which is why I use this one. But the same thing applies. I'm just seeing what I can see down here. I can see a big blob of, there we go. Look, I've got it. This is really satisfying, by the way. If you're having a frustrating day, clean out underneath your machine, because it is mega, just that big stress relief. Now with my other little brush here, the little sharp bits at the end, you can get lots of fluff caught up in between the feed dogs, so we don't want any there either. So I can loosen it with the pointed end. Try not to flick it back into your bobbin shuttle as I've just done. I'll get that out in a minute. Right, and my rule of cleaning machines, do you remember? No blowing. It is really tempting though, because I'm doing this from about, I don't know, probably about 1.5 feet away, because I've got a camera in the way, but you'll probably be sitting quite close to it, and it is really tempting to blow, but please don't blow. You can get those little nozzle suction things that you can clean out keyboards. I've never tried them, if I'm being honest. I would just be a bit nervous, and you've got so many little nooks and crannies in the machine that I think what I'd probably want is to get my brush in there, and then I know I'm not knocking anything where I shouldn't be. Okay, let's just do another little check round there and have a little sanity check and a look down, and I can't see any more. Oh, I can see, look, I can see one tiny little bit of thread, and that's where the paintbrushes come into their own. So there's a little bit of thread caught up there. Can I get that? Oh, there it is. Ta-da! There we go. That was lurking. Oh, now there's a navy bit of thread. Look at that. It's all coming. I said they hide all these bits of thread. They want to stay in here. I have cleaned out a machine as well. Somebody's machine was driving them potty, and I said I'd have a look at it for them, and I thought it probably just needed a really good clean underneath here. So I had a look, and it turned out that there were dog hairs underneath here. In fact, there was one dog hair that was causing the problem. So if your machine is being kept on the floor for whatever reason, and you've got dogs lying near there, it does not take much to get little things in here, and all these teeny weeny little bits of thread, like that one, which is really tiny. If it's about 1/4 of an inch long, that's probably giving it some credit. It's a really tiny little bit of thread, but really that amount will cause a problem for you. Okay, so if you're happy that all of that's gone, I'm going to check my the bobbin housing, the shuttle that it goes in, and give that a bit of a clean as well, because that gets all untidy, and you can get fluff underneath. Now these all go back pretty much the same way, so if you've taken it out and you hadn't noticed how it came out, don't worry. On a lot of the machines you get, can you see there's a little dot here? I think it's a little arrow, but it's very tiny, and there is a corresponding little dot just there. In fact, you can't see that. Hang on, let me see if I can get in. Can you see there's a little dot just there? I'm hoping the subtitles aren't coming up over the top. I'll just hold it and go quiet for a minute. Okay, that was my plan to stop the subtitles going over the top. Okay, let me just move my camera back. So that little arrow there lines up with the dot if you've got one of those. But another way is you tend to have a little velvety thing on the bobbin holder. Can you see just there? That will always go under the feed dogs. And then there's a bit of a section on the front here, and that'll come at the front. This is obviously for a top loading bobbin. Okay, if you've got a side loading bobbin, it's an entirely different thing altogether. So you would still clean your machine exactly the same, but that just slips in there nice and easily. You line up those little dots here that we were talking about, and then the little bit of velvet sits underneath the feed dogs. You need to make sure that it is sat in the housing properly and it's not moving anywhere. If you're happy with that, then we're putting everything back together again. So let me get my cover here. So that's back in place. And then that, can you see here we've got little sticky out bits on the side. I have no idea what they're called, but I have little sticky out bits there, and I've got little hooks on the back here. There's a hook there and a hook there, and they have to go in these holes here. Your machine might be slightly different because they are all slightly different from the different manufacturers, but there will be little clips and things that just sit it back into place. And the easiest way I've found is to slide it in carefully, and it will slot into place. If it's your first time, you might find it a little bit fiddly to put that in, but don't worry, that is just practice. Once we've done that, then we can put our screws back in. So make sure they go back in the same holes. And let's just bring the machine forward and get my other screw. My light's fallen over. That was what the bang was. So I'll just do an initial tighten up with my finger, and then get the screwdriver, and I would tighten it up, and righty tighty, lefty loosey, and yes, I have to say that too. And you want it finger tight, just so you can get it out later. And I'll put my bobbin cover on, and that's ready to get going again. We obviously want to put our needle back in, we want to put our presser foot back on, and then you are good to go. So get cleaning your machine. This is what we have dug out just now. So if your machine is kicking up a fuss, you'll probably find that it's stuff like this that is sitting underneath your base plate that is causing the problem. I hope that has helped. Please don't forget to like, subscribe and hit the notification bell, and I will love you and leave you for now and look forward to seeing you next time.